Time now for an in-depth look at the market news as we start the week. And for that, I'm joined on the line by Dr. Jun-sok, professor of economics at the Catholic University of Korea. Professor Young, hope you had a nice holiday. Good to have you back.
Happy to be here.
Well, last Thursday, Christmas Eve, stocks in New York ended the session higher on the Brexit deal and a pending COVID relief bill in the U.S. What's the story in the global stocks and your outlook in the days to come?
Okay, well, when the market ended on Thursday, the investors were relatively optimistic, and when the market starts again today, they'll probably be optimistic as well, but they missed out on a lot of pessimism and a roller coaster ride during the weekend because, well, President Trump refused to sign the stimulus bill for a few days. Now, this would have resulted not only in a lot of unemployed people not getting enough unemployment benefits, and also the American households not getting $600 per household per individual, but also the part of that budget bill had to do with government funding. So there was a danger that government would have gone into a shutdown as well, and the market, at least a lot of people over the weekend were very concerned about that, but luckily, this morning, Korea time, President Trump did sign the bill. So in a sense, all this worry was much ado about nothing. But still, had the market been operating during the weekend, we would have seen a great big roller coaster ride. But right now, because everything has been settled, the futures market has jumped, and we are likely to see a very strong rebound in the U.S. market when the market opens in a few hours. Now, for European markets, they were off on Thursday and Friday due to the Christmas holidays. Before they ended the trading on Wednesday, most European markets showed an upward trend, except for France, which had a slight downward trend. But they are having a lot of optimistic news as well. There was a last-minute agreement on trade between European Union and United Kingdom, so technically there will not be a no-deal Brexit. They did work out a deal on fishing rights and on standards for UK exports into EU. The EU reserved the right to put tariffs on imports from UK goods if UK violates EU standards. But there are some indications that the negotiations really went down to the wire, and some parts of the agreement seem to be put together very, very quickly. One observer pointed out that when you look at a section on encryption in the Brexit deal, it refers to Netscape 4, which went out of usage more than 15 years ago. Then the Asian markets, all Asian markets started out up due to the U.S. stimulus bill, but they ended up in very different places. Nikkei went up by 0.74%, even though they're having some problems with the coronavirus. Shanghai fell flat, and that seems to be because the Chinese government seems to be cracking down on Alibaba for monopolistic practices. And Hang Seng had a strong start, but since this morning, it is on a net decline, at least so far. They haven't finished trading yet.
Professor, in Korea, the KOSPI was up today, but just barely so, and that did bring it to a new high, all-time high. The gains were paired in the afternoon as retail investors took profits, though. The KOSDAQ was down a bit. What's happening today in the local markets?
Okay, well, as you mentioned, it did hit an historical high. The interesting thing about the Korean market since November 23rd is that almost every day when KOSPI rose, it did not rise every day, but when it rose, it hit an historical high, except for December 23rd. But it did return to historical highs on December 24th, and today it went up as high as 28,106.86, but it fell to 28.08 0.60, which is still a historical high. The reason for that seems to be that today is the day for calculating dividends. So stock prices are expected to fall tomorrow as companies will hold less cash because they paid out in dividends. And also today is effectively the last day to sell stocks if the owner does not want to be classified as a major stockholder and be charged higher transaction taxes under new laws and regulations. So individuals sold, but institutions and foreigners bought, which accounted for a very heavy trading today, relatively speaking, and a very slight rise in prices. KOSDAQ also started out strong, but fell for most of the day, and it ended today at 927.00.
All right, Professor, we're almost out of time, but it's the last week of 2020. We'll have data coming out on a few things this week, including the BOK's last report on consumer sentiment. What's on your radar the next few days?
Okay, well, even statisticians take a holiday, so there's not that many statistics coming out this week. Consumer sentiments, business sentiments, and then the December and 2020 consumer price indices and inflation figures are due out this year, this week. And then the U.S. consumer confidence figures and U.S. oil reserve figures are some relevant international numbers. But problem is these numbers reflect positions about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And because of the coronavirus, it's questionable how much of useful these numbers will be because, well, things are just moving too quickly.
Indeed. Professor, we'll have to leave it there for today. Thanks so much for sharing your insights.
Thank you.